All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Dietz. Thanks for joining me on Survive to Thrive. And let's get started. We're in shift. We're going to be on page 9 today, and we're going to be talking about the anatomy of a shift. A little bit of a teaser for you. I did some research on our local market. And one of the things Gary talks about is we feel a shift differently in a local market than we do when we're looking at the national market. And when I share the numbers with you for Broward County, you're going to see proof to what Gary is sharing with us. And I think some of you are going to be surprised by what I share with you. All right. First of all, on page 9, Gary says, shifts occur whenever supply and demand move out of balance. Write it down, write it down, write it down. If you're talking to a buyer or a seller and they ask you, because they're hearing this too, they're hearing the market is shifting, the market has shifted, there's a local market shift, housing market, blah, blah, blah. And they ask you, what is this? Explain to me what it means for a market to shift. Well, it simply means that a market is moving out of balance between buyer supply or buyer demand and seller inventory. It's moving out of balance between a buyer's market and a seller's market. Or we could just write down what Gary said. That'd be a lot smarter than what John Dietz just said. Shifts occur whenever supply and demand move out of balance. There's your answer. When buyer demand exceeds seller supply, it's a seller's market. When seller supply exceeds buyer demand, it's a buyer's market. A shift occurs when the market moves from one to the other. Now, the question is, does it occur when you move from less than 6 months of inventory to more than 6 months of inventory? Is that the definition of a shift? Do we have to get above that 6-month inventory line in order for us to be in a shift? Or is a shift moving from less than 30 days of supply of inventory, which we were seeing 6, 7, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, a year ago, to more than 3 months of inventory? Is that a shift? Now, I would tell you, for me, by definition, the answer to that is yes. And simply put, if you're selling a home, there are 6 available and 7 are selling every 30 days in a particular area and price range, you are in a super hot market. You can miss the target and you're still going to sell that house quickly and for top dollar with multiple offers. Now the market moves to 3 months of inventory, same neighborhood, same price range. Now you have 15 homes for sale, 5 are selling every 30 days, and you've got 15 sellers competing over 5 buyers. You're in a shift, okay? The market is different. Miss the target by just a little, and you're sitting, not selling. Pay really close attention. All right, Gary goes on to say, if over time fewer listings are selling, you're moving towards a buyer's market. Now, by definition, a buyer's market is more than 6 months of inventory. By John Dietz's definition, a buyer's market is more than 3 months of inventory. But let's just go with the National Association of Realtors definition. Gary says that if over time fewer listings are selling, let's break that sentence down, okay? First of all, yes or no, just type in the chat, yes, or say yes. Are fewer properties selling today than there were a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? Yes, yes or no? Yes. What do you think? Are there fewer homes being sold?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. If I said, go into your MLS and do a search for the number of homes that were sold in Broward County, for example, in January, do the same search for February, do the same search for March, what do you think you would find? Now, if I asked you to do the same thing for the last 3 months, for June, July, and August, what do you think you would find? Do you think there's been fewer homes sold June, July, and August than there were January, February, and March? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge yes, by the way. And I'm going to share the actual numbers with you in just a bit. Now, Gary says if over time, fewer listings are selling, and we've acknowledged that there are fewer properties being sold. You are moving towards a buyer's market. By definition, a buyer's market is more than 6 months of inventory. So are we moving to a market of more than 6 months of inventory? Yes or no? Yes, we are. Yeah, we are. Now, when that happens, here's what you're going to find. My experience, not every listing will sell. Matter of fact, you'll probably get into a market where 1 out of 3 will sell. If you look at total inventory, 2 out of 3 properties that are on the market will end up as an expired listing. Back in 2008, 9, and 10, jokingly, we said you want to be firstborn, second spouse, third realtor. Now, the whole reason behind that was it took a seller 3 times to list their home in order to get real. First time they had unrealistic expectations, it didn't sell. The second time they thought it was the first real estate agent's fault and they still had unrealistic expectations and it didn't sell. Third time they're like, okay, we get it. It's us. It's not the agent. It's not the market. It's us. Where do we need the price of property in order to sell? Done. Sold. Properties that are priced based on the solds of the previous 3 months are going to be overpriced. When you get into that market where you are in a seller's market, buyer's market, by definition, you have to price based on actives, not solds. And in order to sell that listing, you have to beat the competition and you have to price ahead of the market. In other words, you have to price where the market's going, not where it's at. All right. January, write these down. January 2022, there were 2,794 homes sold in Broward County. 2,794. February, there were 3,033 properties sold in Broward County. 3,033. Yeah, I agree. 3,033 homes sold. March, 4,242. Holy cow, everything's going to be okay. Maybe this is a different story than we thought. April, 4,034. May, 3,815. June, 3,667. July, 2,912. August, 2,517. January, August, everything in between. You can see the line, yes or no. Now, the number of homes that are being sold. Ranging from 5,000 to 2,000. And January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. You have sales decreasing by 40% over the high point for the year, which was March with 4,242. By the end of August, we were down to 2,517 solds in Broward County. That is a decrease of 40%. What do you think?
Definitely look into a buyer's market.
Why does a shift to a buyer's market create pain? Two reasons. Number one, it leads to fewer sales and less available income for you. Number two, it tends to be abrupt and precipitous. So just to be safe, I looked up precipitous on Google. I'm like, I think I know what this means. I want to make sure I know what it means. It means steep, sudden. That looks precipitous to me. You can almost see exactly when it happened. It was abrupt and it was steep. Yes or yes?
Yeah.
One of the reasons a shift creates pain is because it happens quickly and it's not a speed bump. It's a big pothole that puts a big old dent in your tire when you run over it. When experienced locally, it is usually dramatic and fast. The national perspective rarely, if ever, matches the local experience. The natural perspective, why is this important? Where do you think your buyers and sellers are getting their real estate news? Are they getting the national perspective? Or are they getting the local experience? National perspective.
National.
It's national perspective, right, Vicki? It's national perspective. It's up to us to make sure that as an economist of choice, as a strategic marketing professional, as a strategic pricing professional, we're sharing this information with our buyers and most importantly with our sellers. We need to make sure that they're getting the right information. The national perspective rarely, if ever, matches the local experience. The hard truth is local markets shift are seldom slow. They're seldom slow. We went from 4,242 homes sold in the month of March to 2,517 homes sold in the month of August. Let me say that again. We went from 4,242 homes sold in the month of March, which, by the way, was an increase from January, which was an increase from February, and we hit our peak for 2022 in March. Things are good. And then all of a sudden, abrupt and precipitous, the market shifted and it dropped to 2,517 homes sold in Broward County in the month of August. If sales are down by 40%, what's happening to inventory? What's happening to the available homes that are on the market? It's going up. You're moving from 30 days of inventory to 3 months of inventory to 4 months of inventory. And before you know it, you're plus 6 months. Gary said, when seller supply exceeds buyer demand, it's a buyer's market. If over time fewer listings are selling, if over time fewer listings are selling, if over time fewer listings are selling, you are moving to a buyer's market. If over time fewer properties are selling, you are moving to a buyer's market. You will be talking to people who's selling their home in a 6-month supply of inventory. You're talking to them now. Depending on the price range, you've probably got a property listed with more than 6 months of inventory. Maybe you don't even know it because you haven't done the research in order to know.
On 2577, that's August.
That's August. So because it's important, I'm going to be super repetitive and I'm going to share these numbers with you again. In Broward County, in January, there were 2,794 homes sold. That's single family properties, townhomes, condos, and villas in Broward County. February, it went up 3,033. March, it peaked at 4,242. April, it dropped slightly to 4,034. May, it dropped to 3,815. June, it dropped to 3,667. July, it dropped to 2,912. And in August, it was 2,517. Fewer homes are selling. Now, why? Well, the answer is motivation. If you've read this book, you know that the cause of a market shift is motivation. Fewer people are motivated to buy. Fewer people are motivated to sell. And the solution is motivation. In other words, your job is to find the motivated. Because even in the worst markets, there are still thousands of homes being sold. Sales are down by 40% in August from our peak in March, and yet there were still 2,517 homes sold in Broward County. Even in the worst market, Noah, there are homes being sold. The solution is find the motivated. Now, because there's fewer properties being sold, there's fewer motivated buyers and sellers, which means you have to ramp up your lead generation in order to find the motivated. Where in the past, maybe 1 out of every 10 people you spoke to was motivated to buy or sell sometime in the next 6 months. If it was 1 out of 10, could be 1 out of 20, and who cares? Whatever it was, it's a whole lot more today. It's at least 3 times more. So if it was 1 out of 20, it's 1 out of 60 now. Meaning if talking to 20 people meant you would net 1 motivated buyer or seller, it's now 60. All right, talk to me. What'd you hear?
Get to work.
Thank you.
Get to work. And I one, I'm usually not on camera. And 2, mostly because I'm usually getting ready. And